Hello, everyone. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to come on and talk to you guys. I kind of need to get some things off my chest about the current situation, political situation here in America. Latest updates, they've found the shooter in the Charlie Kirk assassination, Tyler Robinson, a seemingly fairly normal, upbringing, young man. Uh, and when he goes to college a couple of years ago, he becomes, radicalized, leftist radicalization. Uh, this is what's happening, right? You've got the youth of America being raised in the traditional, fashion, ideally, right? Certainly outside of, your inner cities and things like that. And when they come into society as a group, they have to adopt these leftist, socialist, communist, in-group biases just to be part of the group, right? And surely they do. And, it's worth understanding that they don't have a strong self-identity going on yet. You know what I mean? They're not like people, who stand on principle with integrity and things like that. They're young people. They want to have fun. They want to get along. They want to be liked. They want to be loved. This is not so different from all of us. The reason why I need to speak on these things and I choose to speak on these things is because I experience these things, as an older white man who I'm in decent shape, you know what I mean? 10 pounds overweight maybe, but that's about it. The kind of treatment that I receive in public, in groups, it would shock you. It really would. It shocks me. Like I don't even know what to say about, the behavior that I encounter in public and in groups, the hostility, the condemnation, the way that men are, especially white men, are looked down upon and criticized, and the worst is assumed of them. Charlie Kirk was merely speaking out against this leftist mindset, this woke mind virus, this horrible propaganda, which makes these people hate their own country. How do you do that? Right here, I'll tell you this, okay? If I ever acted disrespectful like that in my household, my father would throw me out. It was pretty simple. You're in my house, under my roof. These are my rules, and you have to respect them. And if you don't, and you don't want to, you don't have to, but you have to leave. Okay. So that was my father in our house growing up. I feel the same way about America itself. Okay. If you can't respect the laws, the traditions, the social conventions of America, then you should leave. Okay. No, you don't get to change them. Okay. This is your moral order, right? This goes back. See, all these things are deeply, deeply connected, psychologically, emotionally. And I'm sure that, you guys, thanks for stopping by, guys, have some sort of inkling, feeling of, what this is. It's the degradation of man himself. Okay. It's the turning of the intention of this great institution and all of its great institutions to the feelings and the emotions of any given individual. In other words, The standard of behavior within a company, within an institution, is not productivity, is not merit, it's not ability. It's the HR department. It's making sure that everybody feels heard, that everybody feels important. Okay. What do you think that's going to create? You've got yourself a battleship, and its job is to be a battleship. And we don't care if people can do their jobs. We don't care if people are trained to do their jobs. What we care about are people's feelings, right? So what kind of battleship do you really have there? And the answer is you don't have a battleship. You've just got this big floating, hunk of steel with a bunch of people's feelings in it, okay? This is what happened. I would call this female capitalism, right? Not capitalism based on value or merit or ability or, an exchange of value. Oh, no, no, no. This is female capitalism. This is based on who you like and who you don't like, who makes you feel good, right? So I'm hanging out in the groups, and I've got people, these are like drug treatment, okay? And the people leading these groups, man, they're horrible. They're bigger addicts than the people they're talking to, right? And they talk about this stuff. Look, how about the idea that somebody who's using drugs and someone who doesn't have their own life in order should not be talking to other people about not using drugs and getting their life in order, okay? That's pretty logical, isn't it? This is why like people in Alcoholics Anonymous are not allowed to speak for the first 30 days, right? Because you've just got somebody up there who's an addict who's hustling their way through the social situation. So it doesn't matter what they say. All that matters is they're full of shit. It's a bunch of bullshit. Okay. But we're pretending, our culture is pretending that people's personal trauma, their trauma talk, their feelings, that these are the most important things going on. So it doesn't even matter. You can have a battleship, you could have a group of police officers, you could have a group of salesmen, you could have a group of introductory workers, you could have a group of students, okay? And if the person you send up to speak to them, no matter what they say, lacks emotional control, lacks emotional stability, is given to letting their feelings dictate their speech, then what you have is an undisciplined person indulging their feelings with an audience. And the speakers get pretty excited about having an audience. I don't know why, right? It's like, somebody who says they want to be famous, and it's like, well, what would you like to be famous for? And they say, well, I don't care. It doesn't matter as long as I'm famous. And it's like, well, okay, here's an auditorium filled with 10,000 people. Here's a school campus with 10,000 kids gathered up to hear what you have to say. Here's the microphone, and go ahead, do your thing. And they've got nothing. Of course they have nothing, So I think in that moment, they might reevaluate their desire to be famous, okay? So now you've got these people who have given up, young people, and the majority of, older people too, who give up their identity, who subjugate themselves, who enslave themselves, and act as if this is to be worthy, okay? Look, this even goes down into MGTOW. Everything goes down into MGTOW as far as I'm concerned. This is the man who loves his woman so much that he'll do anything for her. He'll give her anything. He'll suffer anything because he loves her, right? It's disgusting. She can't respect him. He can't respect himself. He is not behaving as a man, not at all. He's behaving as a servant, as a slave. And he thinks that if he does this, that she will love him. But he can't even love himself. He can't even respect himself because he's lowered himself down to this level. He's broken up his own identity so that he can get the approval of the woman. So if he says, yeah, I think Trump is okay, and she says, I think, no, I don't agree, and you better take that back, he takes it back. He changes his mind. Now, for a young person, yeah, this is what they're doing, right? They're going out and about, and they're putting their ideas and their feelings out into the world, and then they're checking on how it's received, and then they're making their adjustments. So you've got these young, impressionable young men coming into college who want to be accepted, who want to be part of the group. Look, it feels terrible to be the odd man out, the isolated one, the one that nobody likes or trusts. That hurts like hell. And it stays with you throughout the whole time, and it's worth mentioning that the men, especially the white men, are getting this, full force, both barrels. Everywhere they go in society, they are looked down upon. They are not trusted. They are scowled at. They are treated, as the other, especially in your inner cities. There's certain areas where it wouldn't quite be that way. Yes, I would like to move to some nice rural area, a suburban area, where there's good people who know each other. Yes, and who go to church, right? I've never been a big church goer, but I think that it's important because it kind of puts some guardrails and governs the character of the person. My ethics are very deep and personal. In other words, I don't need, the idea that I have to conform to, these set of rules to be accepted. I have my own set of rules and behavior, and I choose to conform to them because, this is what I consider to be virtuous and worthy. And it doesn't matter if I'm going to go to hell or if I'm going to go to heaven. It doesn't matter who likes me or who doesn't like me. What matters is that simply I can live with myself. So we've got, certainly half of our population who certainly cannot live with themselves. And so they identify with the group. And so they are driven into a kind of madness. I'll tell you something else that's important. Your diet, your metabolism, to a large degree, is dictating how you think. So if you eat a bunch of processed food, high glycemic carbs, this is what your body is going to be running on. This is what the actual cells in your body are running on. This is what the actual mitochondria within the cells are using for energy. And the sugar, the carbohydrate energy, it's bad energy. It's quick, it tastes good. So if you're like at the end of your rope, like you just walked like 6 miles in the burning heat, this is something that I do on the regular, or I used to do on the regular. You want that quick, fast-acting sugar carbohydrate energy. The body is craving it. The brain is craving it. But if you live on this stuff, okay, you wind up in this terrible cycle of craving food, craving energy that is sweet and activates a kind of bliss response within you, okay? And it feels good for a little bit, that's what the soda does. But the energy, it's not sufficient to maintain your, bodily functions and your well-being, and even like your ability to hold on to ideas and to process them, or, to do long division. So when the people wake up first thing in the morning, they're like, yeah, it's good to wake up feeling good. And then they're like, oh my God, this is horrible. I've got no energy. The world is against me. I've got to get something. I need my coffee. Okay. So we're kept in this energy deprived mode. And it can't even be like, oh, I'll just have a little bit of this, because the body's either going to run on the carbohydrate or it's going to run on the fat and the protein. It can't do both, and it can't seem to do this combination of it either, right? So, you're not going to eliminate all of the carbs and the sugars, and, you shouldn't do that, but you should eliminate almost all of them. Otherwise, the mind, the brain fog is there. The energy is not there. You say good morning to these people and they're like, blah, 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 blah. They don't even have enough energy to have a good attitude. Okay. I want you to have a good, strong attitude. It would be a shame for any man to live his whole life and to not build up the strength of his own body and to have pride in his own physique and strength and well-being. You can have that. It's available to you. Depending on how far off you've gone on it, and this is the carbohydrates, will determine how long and how hard the journey is back to metabolic health. Okay. Here, let me share my diet with you. Okay. Now, in the morning, sometimes within the next few hours, I'll have a few eggs and a cup of milk, a little bit of salt, a little bit of ketchup on the side. That's it. Okay. Later on in the day, I might have a bologna sandwich. It's cheap. Right. And you're thinking, oh, that's terrible, Howard. No. It's not bad at all. Chicken, pork, spices, bologna. Not exactly high end, very inexpensive. And yet 1,000 times more healthy than, say, a Snickers bar or a soda or anything like that. And I pretty much eliminated all of the sweet drinks and things like that. I'm having tea, right? A cup of tea. I would say tea for two, but it's just tea for one. If not, my thoughts, my own brain, it's crazy. It's too emotional. Okay. I'll tell you. So we've got these people, they don't have the energy. They don't have the mental wherewithal. They don't have a strong identity. Okay. They just want to fit into the group. The group itself, the people leading the group, running the group, in charge of the group, they don't have any energy either. Okay. So it's all this low level, low resolution, excuses and thoughts and blaming of the people all around them. See, this isn't just a political situation. This is some of the people you live with, some of the people you work with. Actually, probably more than half. And they don't even have the energy to be decent and to be moral, right? Like, this is horrible. Like the people celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. Okay. This is where they get their joy. This is where they find their identity. Okay. This is all they have. This is the best they have. And if you're around them and interacting with them, if you're in the same house with them, if you're in the same company with them, they will screw you over just because of the color of your skin, just because of your accent. This is their level of energy. And this is the level of our political leaders on the left. Socialism, communism, it's disgusting. It's never, ever worked. Okay? It's predicated on the idea of an infant, of a child, of a child in a family, thinking that it wants to be taken care of and given things. And it's shameful and it's disgusting and it drags down the personality. It drags down the individual. I'm not saying that people don't need help, okay, once in a while. I'm saying that this isn't a way to live, okay? So they go around, they eat their tasty, sweet food. They have no energy. They find fault with everyone and everything. And then they act out on that hatred, on those feelings. And that's how they find joy. So what kind of a partnership or interaction do you think you're going to have with such a person? Right? It's called codependency. So I come across a lot of young male, female couples. And these girls are ugly. They're fat. They're out of shape. The men are, they've got very little going on themselves. The women abuse the hell out of the men. They just tear them down, rip them to pieces, make fun of them, belittle them, call everything they do into question, insist that, the men are jumping through hoops to prove that they love them. They're going off on emotional outbursts and shit like that. And you know what the men are doing? Well, the guys, what the guys in these couples are doing? They're just going along with it. You know why? Because the woman makes him a sandwich once in a while. The woman tells him that she loves him once in a while. She doesn't love him. She loves eating food. She loves sweet food. Okay. And it lasts for about 2 or 3 hours. It tastes really good. Delicious. A little bit of energy. And then another crash and another desire for more energy. They see the media. They see the influence of their so-called leaders who are little better off than they are, at least on a metabolic level. And they go along. They go along with the group. Yeah. What do you think about the whole Discord server situation, you guys? Right? Like this guy, this Tyler Robinson, apparently, he was heavy into Discord, right? Look, I will tell you, Howard Dare, have never liked Discord. I tried to use it, back when my channel was really big, and I set it up, and no, it was not good, right? It was the worst of people who were saying that they were MGTOW, but they just wanted to group up, you know what I mean? And they just wanted to indulge their hate and indulge their base emotions. And to be honest with you, that's really all the energy that they have. They don't have the energy to, build something bigger, right? Like people don't even like it when I say, the MGTOW movement. It's like, it's not a movement. It's like, well, I'm just looking for a word, right? Just looking for a word to hold place, right? The MGTOW philosophy. It's not a philosophy. It's like, well, yeah, there's philosophy behind it, So what you've got is a huge part of your power structure within your society is dependent on the emotional, mental, psychological, metabolic imbalance of its citizens, right? It's feeding them raw meat. And it's not even raw meat. It's feeding them, just straight up sugar. I really consider the media consumed and the way it's consumed. Again, it's like quick sugar, isn't it? This isn't deep thought. This isn't reflection. That's not what attracts people's attention. Oh no, sensationalism, emotion, anger, fear, disgust. These are the things that get views and get attention. Crazy statements, outlandish statements, and the algorithm feeds it. Okay. And I'm saying that it's very much like, the sugar that we eat and the carbohydrates that we're fed. And yes, your kids, the youth, are insane and they don't have the character. Many of them don't have the character to stand up to the group pressure. This is where MGTOW can make a man strong, not hateful, not resentful, but strong. But even this is becoming harder and harder to speak out on. You see that, right? You see that my commitment has not waned. The Howard Dare content, the subject matter, the manner in which it is presented has not changed. Interesting, isn't it? And yet, I know that what you want right here is, well, what most people want, not what you want, is the video of, all these people celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination, and then to have their anger stoked over that situation. I know that that's what people want. I know that that's how the algorithm, grows a channel and things like that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to fill you full of hate and exploit your emotions and take advantage of, some low energy and people who want to fit in. That's not what I'm here to do at all. I would be ashamed to do that. I don't even want to use other people's content. I really don't, even to talk about the situation. So, I'm here in Arizona, right? They shipped Charlie's body back here to Arizona. His wife addressed the nation yesterday evening. She said that, we will continue on with his work. We will not drop the mic. We will not drop the flame. This is a battle cry. Understand what's going on here. Understand that if you stand up in front of a smaller group and start to speak about religion, about treating people with respect and dignity, about examining people's ideas, and then making adjustments based on the reality of the situation, that if you do that, that they're going to hate you, that they're going to tear you down. What the hell do you think Howard Dare does in public when I'm in a group? How do you think I talk? I talk like this. I speak honestly to the issue. Not so different from how Charlie spoke, because I am not looking to beat people down and make them wrong or to tell them how to think. All I want to do is get people to ask themselves the important questions. What does it take for you to be a good, strong, healthy man? I can't give you the answer to that. I'm not here to pretend that, I know what you should or shouldn't do. But I'll tell you this, you need to ask yourself the question. You need to examine it, and you need to examine it deeply, just for yourself, so that you can then move forward. Or you could just give up your identity to the group. You could just go along with whatever the group says. And you can be a follower. And there's a good place for followers in our society. That's what they want. But that's not what I want for you. That's not how I was raised. Okay? My father would ask me a lot, do you think that's right? What do you think about that? He wasn't trying to tell me what to think. He was trying to teach me how to think. These are important questions. So you see how the socialist, communist group mindset gets inserted into the child's mind, right? He's a dependent. The child has no power. The child has no ability, no strength. He is dependent on the family. So whatever the family is saying, he's going along with it. In this process, they encounter difficulties. They encounter strife. They don't get what they want. Okay, the pretty girl that they like doesn't like them. They don't get to be the quarterback of the football team. So they're very hurt. They're very disappointed. They don't have the money to just buy whatever they want whenever they want it. Okay, so they're upset. They're hurting. And, so is everyone. And then they say to themselves, if everything was just like my family, but I were in charge and I could have all of the resources and give them out to the people who need them, who I think need them, everything would be perfect. And indeed, everything would be perfect for them, right? But they don't have the ability to manage anything. They don't even have the ability to manage their own emotions. And yet, they want to manage the whole world. Look at your Democrats. Listen to how they speak. Not even so much as to what they say, just how they say it. Okay? These people don't have the ability to lead themselves. So they're standing out there in public spouting their hate and their garbage, and they're actually inciting people to violence. I think that this type of speech, the idea of calling somebody a Nazi or, just like Hitler, or a threat to democracy. I think we have to make that illegal. I think we have to turn that into a different class of speech. You know what I mean? Like, we have freedom of speech, but you're not allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater. Okay? I don't think you should be allowed to scream Nazi in, a political campaign. And I don't think that that's curtailing anybody's freedom of speech. I think, libel, slander, and these laws should apply. I think that we should have decency within our public discourse. That's what Charlie was bringing, right? That's what the man was fucking bringing. Decency in our public discourse. The man sat around like Jesus, okay? Speaking, not telling, illustrating, sharing ideas, not telling people, not forcing people, asking people to ask the questions. This is what I like to do. Charlie Kirk and myself are not so different, at least, in motivation and intention. Yeah, he was going to be president one day, right? Yeah, at this rate, he was definitely going to be president. He was going to be president before he was 40, like, the next 2 or 3 cycles, or certainly vice president, and a gifted speaker. Not just a gifted speaker. Look, I talk to a microphone quite a lot, and have quite a lot. That got shut down by the state. They put me in jail because I'm MGTOW, right? 5 years, 6 years. So don't be, you don't need to be too outspoken out there. You just need to be true to yourself, okay? I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought, right? As soon as I go into the punishment that we get for speaking the truth. Not even speaking the truth, but simply asking people to ask questions. What is a good man? What is a strong man? This is the question. What do you owe yourself? Not me, not the people around you. What do you owe to yourself? How do you need to behave? How do you need to hold yourself? Okay? Do you need to do, 20 push-ups 3 times a day? I sure do. Right? Do you need to do 5 or 10 squats 3 times a day? I sure do. Do you need to watch your diet and stay away from this processed junk food? And it is delicious. And when you're running out of energy, man, it really does work. It's like being addicted to drugs. It really is. Don't be thinking that these people are not addicted to their food. And don't be thinking that I can't look at anybody and see what they've been eating for the last 2 or 3 years. And don't think that I can't look at somebody and know whether or not they work out. And I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything like that. I'm just saying it is what it is. Right? So I've got these people that are all out of shape, who don't even have the energy to form their thoughts. And they're talking shit to me, and they're telling me this, and they're telling me that. And I know they're full of shit. I know that they don't watch their diet. I know that they don't work out. I know that they don't read the Bible. I know that they don't read books, but they're telling me that they do, and given our public zeitgeist, I have to be like, oh, wow, that's really great. I really respect the fact that you do these things and everybody's equal, right? It's like, no, they're not all equal. Some people know, they know they're doing wrong. They know that they are not holding themselves to account. And then publicly, what they do is they indulge their feelings and they pretend that this is the coin of the realm, that this is what's important, that everybody gets to do whatever they want to do because everybody feels different. And so this is their excuse to never hold themselves to any account and to only compare themselves to people who are beneath them. I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of contact with people who are struggling, right? And that's me being very polite and generous in stating it this way. I have a lot of contact with people who don't take care of themselves, who don't have any sort of sense of honor, self-integrity. They just want what they want. They just want to feel what they want to feel when they want to feel it. And anything that impedes that, well, those people are just like Nazis. So that's it. These people want to get fat. They want to indulge. They never want to grow. They never want to lift themselves up. They always want to be right. They always want to be the center of attention. And all they need to do is convince the people around them that it would be good for them too if they adopted this attitude. And you know what the child does? The child says, wow, that's great. Yeah, I would love to eat whatever I want, whenever I want. I would love to never have to work. I would love to never have to work out and push myself. I would love to never have to step up into new situations and meet the challenge. And then, of course, by avoiding this, you lose the cycle of improvement that is fundamental to human achievement and male pride, right? Women, children, elderly are taken care of. Men do the work, they do the job, and they get the pride and the dignity that goes along with it. But here's the deal, my friends. You've been doing that work for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and you have not been given the group credit. As a matter of fact, you've been attacked, you've been shamed, you've been ripped down, you've been spit upon, you've been falsely accused and locked in jail. Some of us have been shot in the neck and lost our lives for simply trying to be a good man. So what does that tell you? What message does that send to the younger men coming up? It sends a very clear message, and that message is, don't try to be a man. We'll attack you. We'll tear you down. There's no place for it. We'll kill you. We'll put you in jail. And so the young man, the strong man, the capable young man, I know who you are. I can see it just as I can see the people who don't do their work. I can see the people who do their work. He is shamed. He is not encouraged. He is not brought up to be a leader. He is brought up and shamed for any of his masculine leadership qualities. And so what happens? Well, he becomes a sycophant. He becomes a slave to the group. He just wants to fit in. And you can't blame him. You can't even look at the young man and be like, what the hell's the matter with you, youngster? Because he doesn't know any better. I didn't know any better. Nobody taught me. Actually, my father did teach me. He'd beat the shit out of me if I fucking went wrong on some of these areas. You know what I mean? And no, he wasn't a physically abusive man. He wasn't like that. He wasn't any sort of a softie either. But there were a few things, where he thought maybe I had done wrong, and I hadn't, not in that area. And he let me have it, There have been a few times. One time he thought I was bullying people smaller than me. And yeah, he really brought it to me. Another time he thought I was really just so one time I'm laying in bed, right? I'm like in junior high or high school. And my father's staying home from work for whatever reason, but he's going to drive me into school today. And he wakes me up. He says, come on, it's time to get up. And he brings me coffee, right? He's a nice man. He's brought me a cup of coffee, and he's going to set it down on this, on my nightstand. And I say to him, oh, I feel sick. I don't feel like going to school. And he says, okay, well, here's your coffee. And he takes the coffee and he just splashes it in my face, right? And then he just walks out of the room. So I can taste the coffee now. It's like, there's my coffee. So I say to myself, well, I've got to get up and take a shower now, so I might as well go into school. He used to coach me. He was an Olympic weightlifter. He was pretty good too. And he was training me. And if I said, like I didn't want to work out today or I was injured, he would be like, okay, fine. I don't want to teach you anymore then. Right. Like then I don't need to be your coach. This is a man's way. This is how you bring the man. This is how you bring the young boy up into being a man, right? He got me jobs on the weekend, working with his construction buddies. He was a plumber, steam fitter. He had friends, carpenters, electricians, things like that. So I got to go out on the weekends and hang out with them, from a young age. So I learned the importance of doing a job and getting a job done and the pride that a man takes in a job. My father, he built houses. He built his own house as a young man. This was shortly after this was a little bit after World War II. And he had a few daughters and his wife. I was not yet born. And this man built his own house. He had his friend. I remember it a little bit, right? It was a good house, but I'm sure that everything was perfect. I'm sure that every corner matched. I'm sure that, every bit of molding matched. I'm sure it was perfect because later in life, he built more things and he taught me the pride in one's craft. On some things, I don't care if the job is good enough. It needs to be perfect, or it needs to be as close to perfect as I can get it, because the work, that's my signature. Okay, you get to look at that and you get to say, oh, that's how Howard Dare is. That's the kind of job that Howard Dare does. And I want it to be the best. I want it to be the best that I can make it, right? Otherwise, I'm going to be ashamed. It's like releasing a video and hard coding some text into the video, and realizing that you've misspelled something. Like, you're never living that down. Every time somebody watches that video, they're going to see that you misspelled that word and you couldn't get it out of the video. So there you go, right? You got to, anyway. So the pride isn't there. The men are raised like women. Okay, they're treated like women. They're not held to the account that a young man needs to be held to. Okay, the men have rights of initiation. You're not just automatically a man. I'm sorry. You got to prove it. No, you don't got to prove it to me. You got to prove it to yourself. So they take the young men and they bring them out into the forest and they drop them off and they say, okay, we'll see you in a few days, or we won't. Figure it out. There has to come a time, So the young person, is looking to their family, is looking to the group for help. Well, there's going to come a time when the group and the family just isn't there. And who are they going to rely on then? Well, I sure damn well hope that you've had some decent men around you speaking the truth to you so that you don't end up falling by the wayside or being entrapped into some female, feminist, socialistic, communistic, America freedom-hating group and then have to win their approval, because maybe there's a pretty girl in that group and maybe she'll be nice to you if you go along with that group. And then as long as you don't say anything or do anything or act in any way that might upset her, maybe you'll get to hang around and be there. Maybe she'll let you take her shopping. Maybe she'll let you fix her car. Maybe she'll let you work for 40 or 60 hours a week and then give the money to her to prove how much you love her. And maybe the man can clean the toilets every night to show how much he loves her. Do you think that she respects that? Do you think that this servile attitude that is demanded from the left, do you think that any woman looks at that and says, oh, wow, this is a great man. I want to be together with this man? No. She says, I can use this man. I can get stuff from this man. I can play this man. I can pull this man around like a puppet on a string. But I have no respect or love for this man. And once his usefulness is done to me, once the novelty of his company becomes tedious to me, not only will I discard him, but I will destroy him. And that's power. And that is the power that we give to the women, to the group, to the society. Maybe you're saying, well, Howard, what can we do? And the answer is, as a young man, not much. Because as far as you know, this is the way. When a man stands up and says, I take pride in my work, I work for myself, you can't tell me right from wrong. I go to church, I read the Bible, I study philosophy. I'm not trying to tell you right from wrong, but here's some questions. And the group says, that's a bad man. You should hate him. And if you don't, you can't be in our group. You can't be in our female group. You can't be here at school. See, that's what it all is, right? What the hell? I don't, if somebody has multicolored hair, facial tattoos and facial piercings, I don't think they should be allowed to be a teacher. I think that you should be able to look at a person like that and say, you know what, this is not for you. Maybe you should go be an author, an independent kind of person. Why the hell? Why the hell did we do that? Why did we let these people with rainbow colored hair, facial piercings, and facial tattoos have one of the most important jobs in our society of teaching children? Why did we do that? Did we do that because we didn't want to upset or offend the women folk? I think that's why we did it. Hey, Senator Armstrong, the fattest nutter. Sup, bro? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, you should be a senator. I will support you, right? You ever run for office, Senator Armstrong, the fattest nutter? You've got my vote. You know why? Because you've got some courage here. You've got some balls, okay? That's a fucking masculine quality. And I admire that. And we're losing that in our society, in our culture. Jeez, man. They shoot the person for doing it. He was standing up there as a man, speaking the truth, speaking his truth, okay? Asking people to ask the questions. The young people, asking the students to ask the questions. That's what I'm doing. That's what a good parent is doing. So the good parent, is guiding their child. They're rewarding them when they do good. They're punishing them and correcting them, disciplining them when they do bad. And this teaches them. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Let them earn their spurs. Battlecry. That's a quote from a knight. Might be out of Shakespeare, though. You can't give a man his spurs, okay? You can't make a man a knight of the realm. I mean, you can give him the title. You are a man, my son. But that doesn't mean he has it. Do you see what I mean? It's like The Rock used to go to Stone Cold Steve Austin's matches and steal the Intercontinental belt, and then run away from Steve Austin and hold up the belt and say, "I have the belt. I am the champion." You can't steal the belt. You have to earn it, right? What's the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie? Is it Bloodsport, where he's like the orphan and he's brought up by a samurai? And at one point, he goes into the room with the sword, samurai sword, and tries to take the sword. And the samurai says, you can't simply take it. I mean, you could, but you wouldn't have earned it. It's not you. Okay? So the men have to earn their spurs. They have to go through their initiation. And it has to be with the other men, because otherwise, it's with the women. And the man ends up being a servant and a domestic slave. And then he can be manipulated like a puppet on a string. And then when his emotions go out of whack because his metabolism is out of whack, because all he eats is quick energy that's sweet and tasty, now he goes insane. And more of them. And what the hell? Look, our mass shooters are now coming out of trans ideology. This is the main place where they're coming from. It's insane. The fish got nukes. I've been lurking for a while. What's up? Yeah, I just felt the need to come on here. Look, we live in a society that discourages men from being men, okay? People around me, they don't want me coming here online. The personality that I develop when I start talking with you guys on the regular, they don't like it. It's none of their business, and I don't give a shit. But, that's the truth of it, right? So I'm thinking about creating another channel, and I'm thinking about making it a biography philosophy channel where I just talk about great thinkers, great minds throughout history, and summarize, their main ideas. It's boring as hell. It's as bland as fuck. It's lukewarm, right? It's that which you would spit out of your mouth. It's like making a video and saying the sky is blue. Nobody cares. Everybody knows this already, okay? So you're watching the death of masculinity, okay? Yeah, exactly. They're killing the men. And the young men, the weaker men, join in with it. I can't tell you how disgusting and how disgusted I feel when I see like these talking heads, these newsmen who come on and defend the left. First of all, they lisp. They're gay, right? You can tell simply by their voice that they are fucking gay. And then they talk this female bullshit. This, well, on the one hand, the person said this, and then, we've got to look at it and it makes me sick, okay? It's like if a man is going to get up and talk like that, it's like, please shut up. Put on a fucking dress, okay? Put on a dress, put on a fucking wig, put on your fucking heels, because you're not making any sense to me as a man, okay? And guess what? I was just, throwing that out there, right? That's exactly what they're doing. The men are starting, these men who are not being, what the hell? Why would a man want to be a woman? I thank God that I was born a man. I thank God that I was not born a woman. Why do these men want to do this? Why do the young men want to do this? Like as a child, like as a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, your older sisters will, dress you up. As a girl, they'll do that sort of shit. And the little child doesn't know, and it doesn't matter. But then they get older, and now they're being mothered. Now their mother is like, making sure that they don't get into any fights. This goes back to letting him earn his spurs. If you don't let him get in some fights, if you don't let him stand up to his bullies a little bit, if you don't teach him how to stand up for himself, he's never going to be able to stand up for himself. And then when he gets older, he's going to come into a college group and they're going to say, hey, we're a bunch of socialist, leftist feminists, and we believe that the world owes us a living, and we believe that men are evil. And he, as a young man, is going to say, yeah, I'm right here with you. What's self-loathing? What's self-condemnation that is heaped upon the men? And this is like the water for a fish, okay? This is part of our culture. So the good, strong man walks into a room and all of the women are like looking down their nose at him. And all of the weak men who love the women and will do anything that the women say, they're looking down on him. And maybe there's one or two men in there that are looking at the guy and being like, hey, he looks like he might know how to fight. Huh, he looks like he might be a mechanic. Huh, he looks like he can do some construction work. I wonder what this guy's got to say, So there he is in a room with 19 people hating on him, looking down on him, condemning him, making fun of him. And one other man looking at him being like, what's up, bro? What's up, man? So how is that man going to feel? An experiment. Let's say you've got a son, okay? And this son goes to a very, very liberal college, all female, almost, all female, all feminist. And the few men that are there, they're servants, they're sycophants to the women, into the cultural mindset. Okay. And you send your strong boy in there. You've taught this boy, maybe he's going to play football. Maybe he's going to play some sports. Maybe he's going to start up his own company. Maybe he's going to become an engineer and work in a big company and learn the systems and then, innovate. Maybe he's going to be a doctor. Maybe he's going to be a lawyer. Maybe he's going to stand up for the rights of other people. Maybe he's going to be an advocate. Okay. It's your boy. You've taken good care of him. You want him to do well. And now he goes into this environment where 19 out of 20 people are looking at him like he's a piece of shit. How do you feel? What do you think about that? Okay? Your son, your boy, who you've taken care of, who you've built up into a young man. And now he's out there in a group and they make fun of him for being a man. They belittle him for being a man. They belittle him for showing up on time. They belittle him for keeping his word. They belittle him for trying to help other people who might need some help. They belittle him for trying to give hope and guidance and strength to those around him. So when there's a loud bang outside, like maybe a car backfire or something like that, and all those 19 other people shrink and scream and cry out and cower, no, your boy looks up and he says, what the hell was that? I got to go out and check that. And they treat him like shit and they condemn him. And he comes home with his head down and he says, Dad, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing everything you taught me. And everybody hates me. And it's not just like, they don't want me around. And I don't want to be around. How do you feel now? So that's our little thought emotional experiment. It's wrong, right? Okay, well, here's the kicker. They're doing it to you. When you walk into a group of 20 people as a MGTOW man, that whole group is looking down on you. They're condemning you. And I know that you're the good man, that you're the strong man, that you're the man who stands up for principles, that you're the man with integrity, that you're the man who recognizes responsibility, that you're the man with leadership qualities. You're the man who can make the future a better, stronger, better place. And they're just a bunch of lazy pieces of shit who want a free fucking ride. I know exactly who's who and what's what. As I said, I can look at anybody and see what they've been eating for the last couple of years. It's written on their body. I can look at the shape of their face and see how their hormones are working. I'm not like, super insightful, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying generally, yeah, we can tell, can't we? The Fish Got Nuked says the women understand. They just also understand that they do not have to listen. So true. Great insight. Totally fucking right. And it's not just that they do not have to listen, that if they pretend to not understand, that they can indulge their weakest and their worst qualities, like wanting to kill people who they disagree with, like celebrating the death of an honest, good, Christian, white man who was just trying to open the minds of the children. Man, I see this in a historical sense. I really do. He was basically, talking to the public like Socrates. They killed Socrates. He was basically trying to teach the people very much like Jesus, and they killed Jesus. And whenever a young man, or they put Muhammad Ali in jail, okay? They put Tommy Robinson in jail, okay? They put Howard Dare in jail, okay? So whenever someone comes along, they go after Elon Musk. They went after big balls. So whenever a man steps up and tries to be a man and tries to lead, and we desperately need it, they try to destroy him. And men like Chuck Schumer and men like media heads on your mainstream media, they condemn it. And they do it in their gay little voice. They think that they don't think he's right. They think that he should try to be fair. And then they look over to the women, and the woman nods to him with an approving smile, pats him on the head, gives him a little fucking treat like he's a dog, and then he rolls over on his back and opens up his leg and lets his tongue hang out and says, "I'm a good man." He's not a man at all. He's a bad influence. Do you remember being a kid in school and having a substitute teacher come into the class, a man or woman, and how you evaluated them, on what criteria you evaluated them, how long it took for you to evaluate them? It took seconds, and you evaluated them physically. You could tell exactly who and what they were, and you could tell by the tone and the timbre of their voice. You can even tell by that. So the men, you, my friend, fellow MGTOW, my bro, are being treated like shit when you walk out in public. And 19 out of 20 of the people look at you and say, what a piece of shit, what a danger. So the idea that the men are walking around with their head down like that little boy who can't fit in anywhere, well, that's the truth of the situation. And what do you think it's going to fucking earn them? Pardon my language. You think it's going to earn them unlimited candy, like they're living in, Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? You think that's what they're going to get? Yeah, maybe, right? And they're going to be rolled away like that big fat Veruca Salt. Veruca Salt. She was the entitled little princess of the rich man, right? So Wonka says, no, you can't eat this and you can't eat that. We're still working on it. And she's like, I get to do whatever the hell I want. And she goes and she eats it and she turns into a big fat pig. Sound familiar? I mean, right? It's a joke in a movie, right? Well, go ahead. Look at your women on the street. Go ahead. They all look like Veruca Salt. They all look like little fat Oompa Loompas. They all look like truck drivers and they act like it too. Not all of them, but, many of them, so yes, the young men are being driven to madness. Physically, emotionally, psychologically, they're given no leadership, no guidance. Any of their decent male qualities are condemned and shamed. And so they're walking around like your son, but his head is down. He's kicking at the dirt. He's got no friends. He's got nobody to hang out with. Nobody understands. Nothing you can do to help him. Not like you can fix it. But you can teach him to have pride in himself. You can teach him how to lift weights. You can teach him how to work out. You can teach him how to take pride in actual accomplishment and achievement. But if he gets too strongly under the influence of the feminists and the socialists and the communists and the leftists, they're going to tear that all down. They're going to destroy that. And you're going to have a hateful, fucking feminized boy. And you know what's probably going to happen? He's probably going to want to transition, because that's how he would get the ultimate approval of that group, isn't it? As I said, I thank God. I thank God that I was not born a woman. Yeah. Once I start talking, I don't get to the comments. Howard, it took you like 15 minutes to get to the comment. LOL. It's true. I go off on this kind of stream of consciousness speaking, right? And I just let it roll. And I used to do that all the time before they sent me to jail. But, jail, putting a man in prison for nothing, for being a man, it changes you, It makes you think a little bit more carefully. Certainly the Charlie Kirk assassination has me thinking about whether or not I should speak in any sort of a group, because I'm in that group of 20 people that I'm talking about. I am that one man in that group of 20 people. There might be another couple of men in there. I'm not saying, nothing like that. But I am that one man, and I don't see the other men stepping up, and I don't blame them, because they will be kicked out. They will be destroyed. I know the contempt with which I am held in. I know the isolation that I suffer with. I don't get to hang out with people. I don't have a group, that comes to me. MGTOW is my group. Okay. This is my thing. This is my only thing. Every place else, it's like I am condemned for being a man. Oh, did you guys see the Bills-Raven game last week? That was an amazing comeback, wasn't it? Right? Freaking Josh Allen, MVP. What was it, like 16 points in the last 4 minutes? What a comeback, right? Even I had walked away from that game. I had turned that game off, right? After the Ravens, I think it was Flowers, made that one-handed catch for a touchdown. I was like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to watch this anymore. It's over. It's over, right? Like watching a fight where one guy is just getting beat, is just getting beat down to hell. It's fun for a little while, you know what I mean? But after that, it's like, come on, just stop the fight. So yeah, I turned that game off. And then, like the next day, I'm like, well, I'm just going to check the score. And it's like, holy shit, 41-40. The Bills actually beat them in the last 4 minutes. Okay. That's what a man can do. Okay. It hasn't been done in history, but that's what a man can do. That's what you can do. Something like that. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what you do. Not you could do that. No, that's what you do. You take an impossible situation that is ridiculously unfair, and you reshape the world in your image. And that's what we can do as men. But the women can't do that. They can give birth, but they can't reshape the world in their image. A boy can't do that, not yet. He can build up to it. An old man can't really do that. He's lost his energy. He can still do it. But, it's different. No, we leave this to the working man, to the men who run our society and run our civilization. For real, not the people who stand up and take credit for it on the news programs and spout off, leftist, communist, socialistic, feminist ideology so that they can please the women. No, not those men. The first responders, the men who work in the warehouses, the men who don't get the credit, the men who are looked down on, but who still do their work. How's that for strength? How's that for honor and integrity? So that's where we come from. Those are the men that we come from. This is the system that we are born into. And 19 out of 20 of them they're women, or they're men who are so desperate to please the women that they might as well be women. I don't mean that the way you think. Their sensibilities are female. So what are you going to do? How are you going to hang out with him? How are you going to repair your motorcycle with him? How are you going to go out and do some weekend, job? Hustle up some money, huh? How are you going to do a hustle with a guy like that? You're not. Oh, well, I guess those things are just a thing of the past, right? I guess we just don't do them anymore. Right? No, we just do female stuff. So the men transitioning to be women, of which we see so many of our shooters now coming from trans ideology. Why do you think this is happening? What do you think's going on? Because I think what's going on is that, the young boys are feminized. They're punished for being men. You are punished for being a man, for having masculine qualities, for coming into a group and speaking truth. Not telling people what the truth is, but simply asking the question. Okay? You're punished for it. What are we going to do? They're killing us. You see, they're not killing you because, I don't mean you, they're not killing the one particular man, but that's because he hasn't spoken up yet. Let him find his voice. Let him speak. And you watch how fast he goes to jail. You watch how fast they come after him. So that's the world that we live in. That's the world that your son or the young man is growing up in. And it really does go all the way back to Nietzsche and the idea of the Superman, of the Ubermensch. You have to create your own morals. And guess what? That's almost impossible for a human being. It just can't be done. I mean, I don't know. All right, to a degree, it can be done, but no, it can't be done. You don't get to set the moral order of the universe. That's way outside of your scope. You didn't write the 10 Commandments. You don't get to decide. It's there. So what happens when the society around you starts to say that women are men and men are women and they're going to dress up like that and they're going to act like that? I don't have the power to change that. I don't have the power to say that's wrong and you're not going to do that. I can do it. I can say that. But you know what they'll do? They'll condemn me. They'll put me in jail. They'll kill me. They'll destroy my life. So that is what you're walking around in. And you're wondering why things aren't working out so well. Well, that's why. Because it's a female-led world. It's a covert matriarchy. And it's not even so covert anymore, is it? Kamala Harris almost got elected. What a vapid idiot. There's a woman who stands there on public TV with a microphone in her hand and giggles and laughs and speaks inanity, just foolishness. Sentences don't even make sense. And then she laughs and smiles and people applaud and people try to cover it up for her. Even like 60 Minutes, edits all the bad stuff out. Is that your leader? Is that who's in charge of us? So it seems, man. So it seems. So I don't really have much going on in the chat. I came on here very early, not to simply because I felt the need to speak. That's all. Okay, because I need to talk to my fellow MGTOW, the other men. Okay, because I'm gonna shut this down, and boom, it's back to exactly what I said. Exactly what I spoke about. 19 out of 20 people looking at me like, ew, what's he doing here? It's a man. Ew. He has his own values and sensibilities. Ew. He speaks out for what he believes is true. Ew. He defends what he believes is right. Ew. What a pig. We don't need him around. Ew. And the little boy drops his head and kicks the rocks and walks away. So that is what we are experiencing as men. And yours, of course, you're not a little boy. I'm not a little boy. But sometimes inside I wonder, sometimes like I feel things and it's like, there's that little boy again. I remember him. So you're like a new kid who's moved into a new neighborhood and you want to like throw the baseball or kick the ball or shoot some hoops or go out and ride your bike or just run around or climb a tree. You just want to do that sort of stuff. You've got that energy. And everybody around you says, no, you should put on a dress and you should play with dolls. And if you don't, we're going to punish you. And if you really can't even bring yourself to do that, we're going to drug you. And we're going to punish you every day in school. And you're not going to have any friends because we don't let any of these boys ride bikes, climb trees, kick a ball. I remember an incident. I was riding my bike. It was a mountain bike. I was older. I was risking my life. I was trying to find ways to risk my life. I was looking for steep hills to come, smashing down. And I'm riding around and I see a park and it's filled with kids playing baseball, softball. Bright, shiny uniforms, lots of colors. 6 or 7 of the baseball diamonds are, filled and used up. So I ride over, and it's all girls. It's all women. It's girls. And I'm like, well, where's the boys' little league? Because I know that boys love to play baseball. Some of them are really good at baseball, and some of them might actually become, real baseball players. There's a profession for, professional athletes and college athletes at a very high level. But the thing is you have to train up to that level from a very early age. That's why they're so good. Like, you can't just come in there at, 16 and be like, yeah, I'm going to be a baseball player. It's like, well, maybe, but no, these kids have been doing this since they're 8 years old. So I'm wondering, where the hell are all the boys? There's no boys out there playing Little League baseball. It's all girls. And they're all different age groups. And their uniforms are really sharp. There is not a dirt stain on one of these uniforms. They are bright white with bright colors. They look great. Okay? So I figure I'll watch a little softball. Okay. Well, first of all, they don't pitch to each other. The umpire or, like one of the coaches pitches. And he doesn't pitch to strike them out. He pitches to give them the best ball to get a hit. That's what he's pitching, okay? They can't hit the ball, but occasionally they do, right? Sometimes they even hit a fly ball. And the girls run over there like they're going to catch it. But then they become afraid as the ball's coming down. And right at the last minute, they step aside and they don't catch the ball. And then they pick it up and then they try to throw it, to the bases. Nobody on the bases runs, though. They have to be told when to run, So they see the ball gets hit and they just stand there. So, you have to tell them, oh, go ahead, run. And they're They're not children. They're, young teenagers. Eventually, one of them runs over, picks up the ball, throws it into home base, right? Nobody catches it or anything like that. Like there was one girl out there who was looking to play ball. And the game is over. And what's the score? There is no score. We're not keeping score. That's not why we're playing the game. And it's all girls. And while I'm out there, I see this little boy, and he's kicking a can. He's taking a little soda can out of the garbage that's been crushed, and he's bouncing it like a soccer ball. He's kicking it and keeping it afloat and keeping it bouncing up. And he's kicking it sideways, and he's kicking it over the back of his head. He's only about 7 or 8 years old, but he's like, a fucking Pele. He's like Cristiano Ronaldo, right? He's got some skills. He's got some moves. But his mother, this big, fat, obese, misandric land whale, is screaming at him, Johnny, stop that. Stop that. You're going to break something. Okay. And the kid, thankfully, just ignores her and kind of, keeps going. But there it is. Okay. All the girls are being put into these uniforms as soldiers, as athletes, which they can never fulfill these roles. There's no point in training them up to these roles, okay? There's no point in taking a 10-year-old girl and teaching her how to be a UFC fighter. Or at least it's only going to happen like 1 out of 20. You know what I mean? There's really no point in doing it. There's no future for her there. And there's no point in actually giving her that skill because she's not going to build a family. Don't you see what's going on here? Oh, women are just as good as men. A woman can do a job that any man can do. Well, that's not true. But if you try to make that true, what is the end result of that? What happens? What happens 10 years down the road if you say that men and women are equal, okay? That any job a man can do, a woman can do. And you give them those jobs. 10 years later, what happens? Nothing happens. She doesn't get married. She doesn't build a family. She stays single. That's what happens. She's got money to buy purses. She's got money to buy new clothes. She doesn't build a family. She becomes a spinster. Give the job to the man. And you know what happens? That's right. He builds a family. He has children. He raises those children. He grows his business. He becomes an innovator in his field. He doesn't quit. He doesn't say, oh, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I want to go stay at home and have children. He doesn't say that. He doesn't do that. So this woman that you're bringing up through the system, there's no point. All you're doing is feeding her vanity. She's not going to become a mature woman who builds a family. And if she does try to build a family, she's doing it in the wrong way for the wrong reasons. She's doing it like it's a consumer product that she's going to have in her pocket. So there's no point in even building them up on that level. There's no point in trying to make the female a great quarterback or a great baseball player or a great fighter or even a great doctor. Can some individuals do it? Sure, absolutely. Should they be allowed to do it? Yeah, sure, absolutely. No problem. Should you push all of them to do that and then exclude the men and the boys? No, that's a sin. That's a crime. What happens is you destroy the future of your society and your culture. So if you treat the women like men, you lose your society, your culture. You lose the leadership of strong men. Hard times make strong men. These are hard times, my friends. They're killing us on the streets. They exclude us from our jobs. They tell lies about us and put us in jail. Anytime we stand up or speak out as a man, we get put down. And we get put down hard. And what message does that send to the other men? And what message does that send to the young boys? And you can see the result. You can see how they act so timid, how they keep their voices down, how they look down at the ground, how they do not speak up. And when they do, they're murdered or put in jail or fired or isolated and alone. So I know what you're going through because I'm going through it. What's up? I'm just checking out the comment section, but I got nothing to say here. Okay. I'm going to come over onto the channel and my channel. See, I'm on StreamYard, right? So wait a minute. We might get some echoes going on here. Okay. Is this a battle cry for America? Howard Dare 9 watching. Thank you guys. I appreciate you stopping by. Now I'm gonna join myself, okay? Because I need to join my own stream so that I can have the extra viewer. I'm also going to like it. Go ahead and hit the like button for me. I would really appreciate it. Okay, yeah, I'm here. What's going on? Top chat. Okay, there it is. Hello, MGTOW. Yeah, I don't announce these things. I don't try to get views, right? I try to speak to the MGTOW men about the MGTOW subjects. Now, we've got a lot of other content creators and, MGTOW related. Let's say somebody like Alexander Grace, or there's this other guy like Manosphere something. And they get a lot of views, right? But what they do is they just play videos of pretty women who are bitching and, moaning and complaining. And then they rag on them. They say, yeah, some bullshit. Yeah, she's got a lot of nerve asking for this. But the men love it, right? The men love to see the semi-attractive woman, crying and complaining and, saying, where have all the good men gone? Okay. But for me, understand what a betrayal that would be. People would ask me, and they sometimes still do, but I don't use it anymore. Why do I use the pictures of the attractive women in my videos? And I go in for, the beauty shots, right? The high end, portrait, totally filtered beauty shots of professional models. That's what I go for. Those are the images that I used to use. Okay. Yeah. Why do I use them? Yeah. Great question. I don't really give an answer on that question though. Right. But on some level, you must understand, what's going on there. Right? Like a baby looking at its mother's face, and being like, oh, that's really soothing. So the man looks at a pretty woman's face and he's like, nah, that's very soothing. Or at least on some level it is, but on another level, it's also very infuriating, right? So I'm not going to play over to that infuriating level. Like, I'm not here to incite hatred. I'm not here to incite resentment or anything like that. I'm trying to give insight so that the man can be stronger. That's all. So you find the things that you like, that you love. For me, MGTOW, talking to the men. For you, I don't know, maybe something else. Maybe going out and teaching Little League Baseball. Although you're not going to be able to find a group of men, a group of boys to teach Little League Baseball to. Yeah, let's check that one out. Do boys still have Little League? Searching. Yes, boys absolutely still play Little League Baseball, which offers programs for players 4 to 16, including divisions like T-ball, minor ball, Major League, and the Teenager, Junior, and Senior League. The organization also offers Little League Challenger Division for children with physical or intellectual challenges. To find a program in your area, use the Little League's League Finder tool at playlittleleague.org. And you know what there's a picture of? Pictures of girls playing Little League. Here's a great experiment that I do all the time. Just going to say Little League Baseball on Google, Little League Baseball, and we're going over to the images. Okay. A lot of little black boys. Oh, there's President Obama standing with a bunch of black boys. Oh, that's fine. There's some white boys in there too, but they're younger and littler. Okay, and there's one picture of a girl, for Little League Baseball, but they're all pictures of little boys. Okay, that's good. Let's try a different experiment. Let's try typing in strong men, and let's see what kind of images it gives me. Interesting. It is giving me pictures of strong men. This is different. It used to not do this. It's giving me pictures of, bodybuilders and strongman competitions. Yeah, good. Okay. So if I did this, 6 months ago, you know what I would get a picture of? I would get a picture of a bunch of gay men, usually minorities. I have nothing against minorities. I am a minority myself, right? Some degree, certainly nowadays. So even the idea of what a strong man is was under attack and is under attack, So it's like, the boy says, I want to be a strong man. And the 19 women and the weak men around him look at him and say, well, if you want to be a strong man, then what you need to do is to transition to becoming a woman, because that's what a strong man would do. So you see, the definition of what things are is changed from underneath them. This is a tactic of how to use language, okay, to undermine the principles and the values and the tenets of a culture, of a society, of a group, of a corporation, of a gang. Culture is one of the strongest things. You could write a rule book with 100 rules in it, and you could give that rule book to everybody who shows up for the job, for the meeting, for whatever. Okay? They could read those rules. Those rules don't mean shit to any of them, to any of them. Okay? Some of them don't need to read any of those rules, and they will not break any of those rules. But the majority of them can read all of those rules, and they will break all of those rules, and you will need to come up with 100 new rules that they have broken that you need to now institute. Okay? That's the way it is. It's like herding cats. But if you have culture, and this is the expectation, and this is how we do things here, and this is what's expected of you, and if you don't rise up to this level, then your work will not be accepted. What you're trying to do will not be accepted. That is all. And you can see the standard that we hold ourselves to by examining the other people here on the team. That's culture. That's the strong influence. That's the powerful force. That's the force that gets people, to buy in, to join up, to come along. Not by force, not by rules, not by threats or punishment, but by genuinely wanting to contribute value to the group. And then this becomes the exchange, that value for value given back. You do good work, you make good pay. And let's keep it going. You need a little bit more pay to do more of this good work? Okay. Give me more of this good work. Try to improve the quality of this good work. If you show me that, you get more pay. I'm confident in you. I'll give you more pay. I know you're going to come through. I trust in you. That's a man's way. That's how men do things. This is the level of work we do here. I'm not interested in making videos of women crying and complaining so that I can get the attention of desperate, thirsty blue pill men. Does nothing for me. That's not an exchange of value. That's an exchange of value with the algorithm, but it's not an exchange of value with you individually. If you don't feel and understand these things that I'm talking about, I believe that you will come to understand and feel these things that I'm talking about. And I want to give you preemptive insight to avoid these troubles, right? This is what the good wise man does. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what Charlie Kirk was doing. So what are we going to do if, as we try to be men with male values and male sensibilities and understand everything here, everything man-made here, okay, not the world itself, not creation itself, but everything here is built by men. You're going to lose it? You know we're going to lose it. Let this leftist, feminist, gynocentric bullshit become the dominant force in our society, and it possibly will. You know, they're fighting for it. And we lose the ability to build tools and build machines. We end up as a fucking nation, a world of dependence. But dependent on who? There's no strong men to actually get the job done. And you must understand, please understand, think about it, okay? That's exactly what the government and those in power want. They want a nation of dependence. This is why when they want dependence. They want people who are reliant on the government. They want people who are reliant on the group. So if you're a strong, independent man, as you should be, as you need to be, everybody around you wants to change that. They're going to teach you a lesson. So if you stand up alone with dignity, with pride, with health, with strength, 19 out of 20 people are going to look down on you and spit in your direction and slander you and badmouth you and tear down at your culture. That's why you're in a culture war. And this is what it feels like to be losing a culture war. But I'll give you this. The left is desperate. They have now gone to the level of just killing people. That's all. They can't win on the merits. They can't have an argument. They can't discuss any of this. They can't talk. They can't speak without appealing to emotions. Why you're watching the content that does this, I do not know. And I don't think it does you any good, okay? Because we are talking about a kind of cultural mindset that we need to build up. Okay? This is the way of the masculine man. This is the way of the strong, good, decent man. And it is not the way of the woman. And it is not the way of the transsexual. And it is not the way of the group. And it is not the way of the purple-haired, facial tattooed, facial pierced teacher. And it is not the way of the capitulating talking head in mainstream media. And it is not the way of the politician who wants to appeal to the largest group. And it is not the way of the content creator who shows you the images and talks about women all day long and complains about the women all day long. In every video they put out, it's about the women all day long. And the prettier the woman is, the more views it will get. So that's our culture. That's where we've been turned. And that's where so what place is there for a man in this culture? Not very many, and certainly not very many where he's not going to be hated and condemned. So what do the young men do? They decide to transition. They decide to become women. They're encouraged to be women, to talk about their trauma and their emotions. I don't want to be in my emotions. A little bit, if they're good ones. Yeah, this is amazing. going over here on Google and seeing, when I type in strong men, they show me pictures of strong men. 6 months ago, they would show me pictures of a bunch of, gay men, minority men, transitioning men. That's what they would show me. Oh, wait a minute. I got to ask for your support here, MGTOW. That's what I got to do. Because I'm getting no support. Because in here, doing this, as I do this, without appealing to, to the male addiction to the female, without doing that, the only thing I have are the strong men, are the good men who want to build a good future. Okay? Go ahead, watch every single one of my videos. You'll see the truth of it. So I ask for your support in this effort, in this endeavor. There it is. There's my Cash App. And there's my Bitcoin. No, what's going on? That's not... Hold on, MGTOW. What the hell? Just looking. I got to get a better presentation of that. No, I'm not even bothering to use video editing in my videos because I don't want to exploit you guys. That's not what I'm here for. Check this out. See if this is any better. No, I don't think so. Hold on. No, it's it's not giving me a space between my Cash App paste and my Bitcoin donations. Okay, I know what I'll do. Right? Look, I'm not the smartest one, okay, but I'm not stupid either. And I feel this is, where most men are at. Like, I'm not a super genius. I'm just a regular run-of-the-mill genius. Okay. Please, if you can spare, please click on my Cash App donation link and help me out. I'm just looking for a few dollars to, get a bus ride, get a little bit of food. As I said, you know what I eat? Bologna sandwiches. So I need about $5. That's all. And I take great pride in this too. As I come into difficulties, scarcity, right? Sickness, sometimes, like I get the flu or something. I take advantage of it. So, this is a perfect time to go on a diet, right? Exactly. That's how a man does it. Whatever happens, it's like, this is great. This isn't a problem. This is nothing to me. Drop me off in the middle of the desert with nothing in the burning heat. I'll find my way out. I'll find my way to you. I'll figure out what to say. Okay, so there's my Cash App donation link, and it's clean. You can click on it. And now, my Bitcoin donation link separately. Wait a minute. Where are we at? Here it is. There it is. Bitcoin. Yeah. So I love Bitcoin. I don't have very much. I think I have 0.00001, something like that, Man, too bad we didn't all invest in Bitcoin about 20 years ago, huh? Just a small couple $100 investment back then. Here, let's check on, let's check. 20 in Bitcoin 15 years ago. So how much? Okay. How much is $20 in Bitcoin in 2013? In 2013, the average price of Bitcoin was about $100. With $20, you would have bought 0.02 Bitcoin today. you would have bought 0.2 Bitcoin. That's a weird thing to say because, with $20. Okay. Bitcoin was 100. Yeah. All right. Today, with Bitcoin at $88,000, those 0.2 Bitcoin are worth $17,600. So a $20 investment back in 2013, which is totally reasonable. Like you probably should have done 100. I should have done 100, right? 17,600 today. This is what men do. This is where we need to be. What would $100 of Bitcoin in 2015 be worth today? If you bought 100 in Bitcoin 2015, here's what you would have today. 2015 was trading at around 430 per coin. Fast forward today, Bitcoin has skyrocketed. You'd have about, so if you did $100 in 2015, you'd have about $96,229 today. 96,000, close to $100,000. So $100 back in 2015 would net you close to $100,000 today. Man, did I screw up. Right? And I'm sure there's plenty of you guys out there that are saying the exact same thing, right? $20 fucking dollars, $100, back in 2015, right? $100,000 today. Okay. So keep in mind, there's things that you can do $100 for today that in another 10, 15 years, they're going to be worth $100,000. Did you know that half of the Fortune 500 companies that are going to be on the Fortune 500 company list in the next 5 years, they're nowhere near it today. They're not on the list today. So half of them, and one of those could be you. 5 years. But is this the faith and the confidence that the men have in our society and our culture today? I saw a movie the other day, and the young man says to the other man, it all goes sideways. They got a hustle going on, and they got it going on, and it's looking good, and they're involving all the other people. I'm talking about the movie Sinners. Okay, black vampire movie, and black Irish vampire movie. Okay, but the young shit. Now I don't want to ruin it for you. The young man now in his later days says to some others who were there, he says, up until the sun went down that night, that was the best day of my life. Was it that way for you too? And the other man says, we were free. We had our things going on. We had our people. Yes. It was the best day of my life for me too. That's all we need, my friends. Okay, we need a bit of a hustle going on here. We need to be free. We need to be friends and help each other out sometimes. And those are the good times. Okay? So we can have that. We can do that, right? I'll do more podcasts. I'll set it up, right? Maybe I'll do one tonight. I don't know. Or tomorrow. And I'll set it up in future beforehand. And we can be free here. Okay? You can be a man here. You don't have to be ashamed here. You do the right thing, the good thing, the strong thing. I'm not going to shoot you down here. Okay, that's all I want. That's all I'm looking for. Oh, I'm also looking for you to click on my Cash App donation link. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, and join me again. Right? So, boom. Yeah, I'm also looking for that. So I'm looking for a little help. Maybe our best days are in front of us. Okay? Maybe we can turn this all around. Maybe this problem, this shortcoming, this area where it's not right, maybe we can fix it. And maybe we can make it better for ourselves and for the ones who come after us. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying to make things better for the men who come after me. because eventually I won't be here, right? Eventually they'll take me out. They took me out. I was gone for 5, 6 years in jail. False accusation. Why? Because this guy that I had met, his wife, found out who I was, Howard Dare. And she created a whole series of false accusations against me. And you know what the state and my fellow men did? They believed her. And they put me through trials, criminal trials, with my life on the line, multiple times. And you know what they found out after about 5 or 6 years? They found out she was lying. They found out that she had done this multiple times before. They found out that she had been condemned in a different court of law for doing this. They found out that judges had reprimanded this person for doing this. They found out that their psychologist had stepped forward and said, this person is partially crazy and is doing this. They found her postings on Facebook, which said she was doing this and that she felt great about falsely accusing the men. And it only destroyed my life and took 5.5 years of me like in jail and going through trials and courts, scared for my life, begging for my life, being spit upon by the world around me. And all these so-called men who knew the truth, but they were just trying to make the women happy. Yeah. Find out what it's like to sit in a criminal courtroom where they're trying to put you away for 20 years and they're all fucking lying. And you can't say a single word. You can't even let your facial expression show it. So that's what the men are going through. And the ones who are even more effective than me, like Charlie Kirk, are being murdered before our eyes. They're putting men like me in jail, okay? And they're killing men like Charlie Kirk. And if they could get to the other men, like Elon Musk, big balls, just men who have a bit of a platform, they'll do it to them too. And other men will do it to them to win the approval of that group. And that group is one of the oldest tricks in the book. What do you think? There weren't cults and fanatics and zealots 2,000 years ago? You don't think you could radicalize somebody 2,000 years ago? 1,000 years ago? 500 years ago? 100 years ago? 200 years ago? You couldn't radicalize them? What do you think World War II was for Japan? The Japanese were, they used Bushido and they radicalized the Japanese male population and they killed millions. So it's an old trick. But when it's the only game in town, what's the man going to do? All right. That's, what I wanted to say. This is a battle cry. This is a warning. Either you get strong and learn how to fight or you're going down. That's all. And the fight isn't you losing your temper and, spouting off and talking like Howard Dare. Or, it's much closer to doing something like what Charlie Kirk did. Not even. Okay, don't do that. Make yourself strong. Keep it to yourself. You'll see the other men who are struggling and maybe needing some guidance. You don't have to tell them what to do. You have to show them, okay? That's why I'm here. I'm here speaking out because this is the right thing to do. I'm not telling you. I'm showing you. So you show that young man that he can get a job, that he can become strong, that he can work construction, that he can command respect. You don't give up. You don't give in. You don't go along. Because if you do, that younger man is going to be convinced that he needs to transition as a female. And you see it. And you see they're not taking the pride in their physique. Why do you think the people are in such bad shape? Hey, we've got stuff going on in the chat. Thank you. Salute. Thanks for stopping by. Godfather Sports. No discipline. Stay strong. Train to fight. That's what I'm saying. What do you think is going on when you look out at the young men and they're all like out of shape and they're all pre-diabetic and obese? There's no masculine pride there. They haven't been built up. They needed us. They needed me as a leader to stand up and to say, hey, man, take a little pride in your masculinity. Good job, buddy. Let's see how tough you are. Let's see if I can hold you back. Let's see if I can take my left hand and hold you back from punching me. You're not going to hurt me. Let's see. And if you do punch me, you know what I've got to say? Good shot. Good punch, boy. Good one. Not, how dare you use violence? No, we wrestle. We fight. This is our way. We struggle. This is the male way. This is your biological function. This is the biological function of all male throughout creation. That's right. Even the cannabis plant, even the fish. That's right. They struggle through the environment and they try to pass on their genes, not because they want to have sex, even, of course they do, but because that's going to make the next one stronger. Here's an interesting theory, okay? Every 4 generations or so, every 40 to 60 years, the entire system everywhere of everything has to turn upside down. And here's what I'm saying, okay? Let's say that you've got a group of wolves, a pack of wolves, and these wolves are the strongest, the hungriest, the most vicious wolves that we have seen in 100 years. Why? Why are they so powerful and strong, this particular group? Well, because hard times make strong wolves, okay? These wolves have had to grow up where there's almost no food. These wolves have had to grow up where there is great competition from other species. These wolves have had to grow up where within their own pack there is hostility and aggression. And because there's so little food, and because there's so much competition, only the strongest of the wolves in this pack survive into adulthood. Anything that's weak gets wiped out. Survival of the fittest. So these wolves they're super wolves. They're cyber wolves. And nothing can stop them. They can take down anything. And they do. They take down the deer. They take down the foxes. They take down any little animal in the area that they want, because that's how powerful these wolves are. And it goes on and on and on for generations until there's very few deer left. There's very few little rabbits left. Okay, this is 40 years or 4 generations, which for the rabbits is, 6 months. The only ones left now are the ones who have had to live with this pack of super wolves. And now they start to change. They start to adapt. They start to become strong. And now the only deer that are left are the deer who are so paranoid and so skittish and can recognize movement from so far away that the moment they see the slightest bit of movement, any 100 yards around them, okay, they bolt. And they don't just bolt. They don't just run away. These particular deer, since they only come from the deer that, survived the super wolves, these particular deers can run like crazy. These are like the Usain Bolts of deer. These deers are 10 miles an hour faster than the previous generation of deers. They are 30 or 40% more perceptive of any danger that is around them. Their sense of smell is utterly superior because all the ones who had bad smell and couldn't recognize when the wolves are around, they died off. So now that pack of super wolves that used to dominate everything, they're in a lot of fucking trouble. They can't catch a single deer because these are the super deer that have been bred by survival of the fittest. Okay, so that's a pretty cool theory, right? Makes sense. I miss Jim Trafficant. I remember him. He was like a Texas congressman, and he was totally outspoken. He had personality, right? I definitely remember him. What's Godfather Sports have to say here? He says, I grew up in Youngstown in the early 80s. Those men from those steel mills, they were super wolves. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. The men who went to my father, World War II, was a super wolf. Okay. But now, over time, the super wolves weed out the deer and they create a batch of super deer, super capable deers. And now those wolves, guess what happens? They run out of food. They're struggling. It's hard for them to get by. So now only the super wolves move forward in the generations. Only the ones who can sneak up on the deers. Only the one who can find different sorts of food make it. Okay, so you get the idea of, this little theory here. But now go ahead and apply this to political movements. The Republicans, the Democrats, conservative, liberal. So for 50 years, we're conservative, getting more conservative, more conservative, more conservative. We go to World War II, more conservative. We win World War II, more conservative. But the culture is shifting underneath our feet, underneath their feet. The culture is shifting. Vietnam happens. The hippies happen. Free love happens. The whole invasion of our college institutions happen. Remember? Penn's, we're calling out the National Guard to the college campus and the deaths. So you see, it's a revolution. It's a response to the fact that they were so conservative for so long. And it worked. It was good. Just like the super wolves. But the situation was changing. The people were changing. Their mindsets were changing. And now, 1960s, it reached such a level that nothing could stop it. Nothing. You had people like John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, speaking out. Yes, people like Martin Luther King, sure, speaking out against the established order. And the society was ready for that change. And there was nothing to stop it. And do you know what the other side did to try to stay in power? They killed them. They assassinated these people. That's how desperate they were. None of their things were working, so that's what they did. Now we move forward. So the 60s, this liberal mindset, this, free love. Now these ideas have played out over the last 40, 60 years. And anybody who isn't strong enough to have their own mind and their own identity fell into these groups, all about free love and everybody being equal. And when it started out, it was a good idea. I mean, we needed it. You know what I mean? We had been dominated by, super wolf conservatives for so long. We needed it. Like the pressure building up within a subduction zone. Eventually like one earth plate is being pushed underneath another and the pressure is just building and building and building. And finally, boom, earthquake. Okay, so culturally, You've got this conservative, mindset going on, stronger, pushing down this liberal mindset further and further, pressure building and building and building. Finally, earthquake breaks. The other movement, the conservative movement at that time in the 60s, so desperate that they start killing people. They start assassinating the people who speak out on these issues. Now we move forward from the 60s up to 2025. And guess what? Those values from the 60s, part of them, no good anymore. They suck. They destroy us. Men are not women. Women are not men. And if they try to be so, they become sick and insane because they're going against creation's order. You know what I mean? They're going against some of the most basic principles of creation. And you're asking yourself, well, why would they do that? It's because they wanted that power. They want to say they're basically God. That you're born woman, you can become a man. You're born white, you can become black. Born black, you can become white. Right? So that's the power that these people want. And it's a childish grasp at power. And now it's been going on for 40, 60 years. And you're seeing the ugly, horrific, disgusting, sick side of it. I'm not saying it was all bad. It certainly wasn't. And we certainly needed it at the time. But of course, the pendulum goes too far. This is like, a child of a divorced parent saying, I want to go stay with my mother because she lets me have all the ice cream in the world and she doesn't ask me to do anything. My father fucking holds me to standards and punishes me when I do wrong. I don't want any of that. And it's like, okay, that's understandable. You know what I mean? You can understand that. But what does it do to the kid over time? It destroys him, turns him into somebody who wants to transition. Marxist, socialist. Yep, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it is. Pornergeist, I probably got that name all wrong, says, glad the left has a sense of humor. I don't want to hear what offends them anymore, from pronouns to fat shaming. Well, they should be ashamed of being fat, shouldn't they? Shouldn't we all? I'm carrying an extra 10 or 15 pounds. I don't like it. Luckily, I've become so poor that my diet now is forced upon me. I was talking earlier, I have a few eggs in the morning and I have a bologna sandwich at night. That's it. That's all. And a glass of milk, a cup of milk. That's all. I get a little ketchup with the eggs, a little salt. That's it. And here's the thing. If I were to use a lot of ketchup on those eggs, it would completely nullify what I'm trying to do here. You know what I mean? I know it's crazy. If I were to have one soda every day, it would nullify what I was trying to do, get into ketosis and, burn that fat and use fat as an energy source. Understand, we didn't grow up with man did not evolve with fruit and vegetables and trees growing all over the place. No, it was scarcity, man. You had to hunt. You had to kill. You had to be good at it. You had to be a super wolf in order to survive. Do you have to be a super wolf now to survive? Hell no. Hell no. But you understand how this natural process is taking place and how the mindset, the sensibilities, the values over time with the existing system revolt and turn against that system and upset that system. So I think that's some of what we're seeing right now. These old leftist, liberal, socialist ideas that had some merit 50, 60 years ago, based on the fact that we might have been a little too rigid at the time. Today, in their fruition, in their maturity, are poison, are killing us, are not allowing the men to be men, are not allowing the boys to be boys. Like they're saying, oh, we just want this fair system. Not for you. They don't want it. They want you and me out of it. They want the traditional man out of it. Now, early MGTOW had said, don't be a tradcon, right? And at the time, that was some great advice. You know what I mean? Because trying to be that tradcon would break the man's spirit. and he was under attack. And it was a fool's errand to a large degree. I say that that's changing. I say you go back to your values, not chasing after women and building families and like, this is the determining worth of a man. No, don't go that far back, but go back to the masculine pride. Go back to the work that you do. Go back to helping the other men. Go back to being a leader. Go back to having your own hobbies. Go back to not caring about what the fucking group thinks about you. Go back to not pleasing people who don't respect you. She does not respect you. The leftists do not respect you. They despise you. They condemn you. Do not go to them for their approval. Now, this is really hard. This is exactly what I try to do. And it's damn hard. And Nietzsche said it. That we will need to be able to create our own values. And I don't mean that we turn away from the, existing good values. That's, the story of Crime and Punishment from Dostoevsky, Raskolnikov. He thinks that he sees this old woman who's a pawnbroker who's got a lot of money, and she's just terrorizing and making everybody around her miserable. And he says, why don't I just kill her and take the money? It would be better for everybody. It would be better for me. It would be better for the girl. It would be better for the society. It would be better for culture. Why do I have to be restrained and, with these other values? This is the right move. So he does it. And, it destroys him. He can't live with himself. We don't get to set the moral tone, all right? This is the Garden of Eden. This is the apple. This is the fruit from the tree of good and evil. Go ahead. Take it. Go ahead. Eat it. Go ahead. Think it's yours. Think it's within your power to do it. You can do it, but you shouldn't do it. I mean, you can't. It'll drive you crazy. We are not the moral arbitrators of the universe. We are the moral arbitrators of ourselves. We can say what we think is right and wrong for ourselves. But if you do something like this kid did in murdering Charlie Kirk, if you do something like what Raskolnikov did, in the book Crime and Punishment novel, no, you don't get to set that tone. You don't have the power to decide good and evil. You just don't. You can guide yourself. But maybe you do have some of that power, and maybe you should take some of it back. You are the man, after all. You are given dominion. She was not given dominion. She was told that she has to follow your orders. You have dominion. Have you maximized your dominion? Have you taken charge of your domain? Have you ruled your domain? Or have you gone along with the group to please the women and to not get fired? And this is like I'm attacking you or something, but I'm not, because I'm there too. This is just my way. This is just my way of pointing things out. You know what I mean? Questioning. So no, the men are not allowed to be men. The young men are not allowed to be young boys. We are condemned. We are punished. We are isolated. We are thrown out. We are shamed. We are mocked. And now we keep our mouths shut. Okay. And if we do stand up and speak out, like Charlie Kirk, that's what happens. Or like Howard Dare, trust me, you do not want to go to jail. Actually, jail's not that bad. Yeah, I take that back. The other men are not the danger, like person goes to jail and they think, oh shit, I'm going to have to fight the other men every day. It's like, no, you're not. They don't want to fight. Most of them don't. Some of them do. But it's because they're so fucking bored. It's not because, you know what I mean? It's not even like, fuck, here's just this horrible, violent person. It's like, what the hell else are they going to do? Come on. No, it's the institution. It's the prison guards that are 350 pounds and they walk around like they're big men and they give orders. And it's them having the female guards come into the male territories and act like, they have full authority without any sort of a problem. And the men are cool. The men in jail are cool. They don't fucking overreact to that. They're thrilled. They're like, oh, hi, good to see you. But it's a bullshit game, right? It's pretending something that's not true is true. Hey, isn't that a sin? When you pretend that something is not true, when you pretend something is true that's not true, isn't that lying? So if I've got two people who want to be a soldier, a man and a woman, and I say that that woman can be just as good a soldier as that man, I'm lying. I'm not like being progressive and open-minded, and that's a sin, isn't it? And surely to ask her to then do the things that I would ask a man to do, that's not fair. I mean, she can't do that. And then for me to ask the man to do the things that the woman could do, that's not fair. He can't really do that. If he tries to do that, he's going to make himself sick and he's going to lose the ability to do those other good things that the man can do, that the woman can't do. So this idea of, equality and all the same, and we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, it's a sin. Not only is it bullshit, it's a sin. And if you do it and you go along with it, well, the wages of sin are death. Certainly failure. Certainly slow death. So if you go along with this lie, with this bullshit, so that you can get along with the people, you're betraying your own self. You're betraying your own, not you. The man is betraying himself. He's betraying his own soul. He's betraying his own future viability and strength. And he's doing it to impress the woman, I've got these people around me, and I've had them around me for a long time, and they don't take care of shit. You know what I mean? Like they don't clean themselves. They don't watch what they eat. They don't work out. They don't take care of their health. They're on a ton of medication. They just whine and complain all day long, and they're very sick. But then they take really a lot of pride in things like a gold chain or a pair of shoes. And they also take pride in things like cleaning toilets. So, every once in a while, they subjugate themselves down to this ridiculous level, okay? But here's the thing. They don't do a good job. They don't do a real job. It's a show. I'm sure you've seen this, and it happens in certain cultures too. I've seen this a lot in a kind of Hispanic background. A young, smaller kind of male acts like he's going to do a big job, and he creates a big hullabaloo, a big bunch of commotion about him, tearing up the floor or something like that. And he starts the job, but then he stops the job and just leaves it at this halfway stage. And then he walks around and acts like a big shot, I'm doing a big job here. I see this with ineffective people. They take pride in little obsessive compulsive things. It disgusts me, and I try to teach them. I had this one guy, he was younger than me, but he looked much, much older than me. He's all messed up with arthritis and medication and overweight and everything like that. And I had moved into this group house. And, I'm a fairly big, strong, healthy looking man. Not super, I'm not 6'2" or nothing like that. I'm not 6'2" and 220 pounds of muscle. No, I'm not that. But, I'm 6 foot and I'm 175 pounds of muscle, and I carry myself like that. You know, you kind of like have to do that if you're in jail. Well, you don't have to, and not all the men are like that. So it's okay. It's fine. But this guy was not at all like that. You know, he was a broken old man who had given up already, and he was younger, but he was younger than me. And I moved into this place, and he acted like he was so proud of things like cleaning up the bathroom and doing the dishes, and he was like, "It's your turn to clean up the bathroom," and I was like, "Yeah, fuck you." You know, you're not in charge here. You're a piece of shit. You don't tell anybody what to do. You don't even get to command a little fucking Chihuahua dog, bro. Shut up. You know, I don't. And here's the thing: I don't mind doing dirty work, but tiny dog doesn't get to be the one who assigns it to me. Okay, people in charge. If they say, "Hey, man, you got to do some of this," I'm like, "Yeah, okay, fine, I'll do it." But I don't want, you know, I don't expect anything out of it. It's not like, oh, I'm a good man because I always do this. So I'm not subjugating myself. Right. So, you know, I was hoping that I could kind of teach the man. I could kind of show him to have a little bit of masculine pride, you know, to do some exercise, to follow his own mind, to search out his own thoughts, his own feelings, and then to honor them, to pay them forward, you know, and to kind of create a positive cycle in the man's life. But he wouldn't have it, man. He would not have it. He was all about, you know, taking care of other people, pretending to, but he really didn't do it, you know. So it was disgusting. It was like you know, I'd be in a group and a woman would say, "Oh shit, I have to do my laundry," and he would be like, "I'll do your laundry for you this weekend." And she would look at him like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he would then look at me like, and the other men like, "I'm just trying to be a good guy." You know, this is the man who like is willing to give his woman foot massages and shit like that. It's like, get your dirty feet away from me. It's like, oh, it's so sensual. It's like, no, it's not. It's somebody's dirty feet. Okay? Here, yeah, if she goes out and works a full day of work on the construction site, I might, out of compassion and sympathy, be willing to help out in this area a little bit. But if you think it's like one of these kind of like, oh, I just love them so much, it's like, that's sickening. That makes me want to throw up. And yet this is what the men do. This is what they think love is, right? Maybe this is something like men loving women, but not women loving men, right? And what the fuck is love? Do you want her to love you, or do you want her to respect you? I think you'll be much better off with her respect and not her love. This also goes back to Machiavelli's, idea. Is it better to be loved or is it better to be feared as a ruler? And the answer is it's better to be feared. And I know that everybody who's hearing this, all the younger people who are hearing this is like, well, I'm going to do both. It's like, no, you just can't. Okay. If they love you, they're not afraid of you, and they'll do whatever they think they want to do, and they'll think that you will forgive them because you love them. But if they fear you, they will do what you ask them and tell them to do. So what do you want? Do you want her love or do you want her respect? What good is her love? What does her love mean? Does it mean that she'll go to war for you? Nope, it don't mean that. Will it mean she puts her life on the line for you? Nope, it don't mean that. Does it mean she'll give you her money? Nope, it don't mean that. Does it mean that she'll make you food and take care of you and be sympathetic towards you? Right? That's what the men are hoping for, right? That's all they're hoping for. And as long as the transaction is in place, in other words, as long as you're taking care of everything else, yeah, a codependent female will do that for a man. But if he loses his ability to hold up his end of the transaction, how long will she stay with him? Not long, my friend, not long. I was living with a fat girl, right, for a while there. I'm sorry, bro. I made a mistake. She was complimenting me nonstop. Over many months. And I'm here in this harsh world. This was many years ago. I'm in the harsh world where people are like, "You ain't shit, man. I'm better than you. I beat you down. You're not worthy of this job. Get out of here." Right. So I'm dealing with all that shit that every man has to deal with. And I've got the fat girl who I don't really like saying to me, "Wow, you're just such a great man. Wow. I wish all men were like you and could do all these great things that you do." It's like, I would just love to be able to get together with a man like you. And it's just going on and more, more and more hustling. It's like, oh, this other man, he threw me out and he stole my car. Could you come give me a ride and be my champion? And I'm fucking like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll help. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to give me that kind of a story, sure, I'll help. Right. But then it's like, oh, you're so wonderful and you're so great. And the whole time I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to get together with a fat girl. Okay. I don't care how pretty her face is. I don't care what her attitude is. I don't feel anything about this. But, as I break down over time and as hard times happen to me, I'm like, and then she's like, well, why don't I just come over and we'll watch some shows? And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Bring some buds with you and bring some bud with you and we'll do that. Yeah, so that's how it happens, right? So don't be ashamed, right? It can happen to the best of us, and it can happen to the worst of us. And it's horrible because the man doesn't feel the sexual attraction for the woman. It's like this cerebral kind of emotional, it's like, oh, but this is my friend and I love her. And it's like, well, good luck having sex with her because you don't even want to have sex with her. So again, it's the man subjugating himself to win the approval of the woman, any woman, even a woman that he doesn't admire or want to be with. Because they're so thirsty, they're so desperate, they're so isolated, we're so fucking alone, we're so against each other, right? It's all the men are competing with the other men. It's like, come on, bro. Right? Come on. What do I need to compete with the other man for? I don't need to do better. I don't need to do worse. I need to be honest. I need to be fucking truthful about what's really going on. So like I said, 3 sets of 20 push-ups will be an improvement for me. 3 sets of 10 squats or even 5 squats 3 times a day, and I don't mean all at once, is an improvement for me. Having a little bit of, having a few eggs for breakfast and some milk, a little ketchup, and having a sandwich for dinner is good enough for me. I'm not this, indulged piece of shit that wants to get fat and to be taken care of and has a bunch of feelings and emotions. And if I do have feelings and emotions, it's generally anger and frustration, because that's what motivates me to become a super wolf, right? So the moral sensibilities, okay, the worldview that our culture has in general is shifting, and it's shifting away from a liberal, Marxist, feminist, communist group ideology where the government wants its people dependent, sick, and weak, and unable to stand up for their own values. We're coming out of that. We're recognizing the danger. We're seeing the death, the destruction, the depravity, the sickness of taking that system to this degree. And we're saying, God, no, please. I don't want to go out like this. Do you think that there is a single person who has transitioned, chemically and, operation-wise, that is saying to themselves today, wow, that was a really good idea? Do you think there's even one? I think there might be some, but I think that those people are crazy. And I think it would be more likely to be a man, an older man who has transitioned to being a woman. I think there might be some instances there. And the reason why I think that this might be true is because, well, I don't even want to say it. You know what I mean? It's like, look, if that's what the man wants you to do, let him do it. Fine. Be your own man. Go ahead. Not my business. Don't ask me to treat you like a woman. Please don't come into my, line of sight because I don't want to look at it. Please don't try to con me and pretend with me, but go ahead and do what you want because you're a man and you can do what you want. And more power to you for that. And if that's what you're doing, okay, fine. Good. But if it's something else, if it's, wants approval from the group, wants to treat this like some perverted, sick little sex thing, then no, that's sick. That's crazy. So one of those, they might think it was a good idea. But I don't believe if they did it chemically or if they did it, physically, like operation-wise, no, not a good idea. I think they would have to condemn that. But I think if they just kind of like did that, it's like, okay, fine. Good for you, whatever, guy. Miss. Yeah, boy. I grew up watching shows like the Beverly Hillbillies, right? And Jethro would be, they would put him in a dress once in a while. It was funny as fuck. You know what I mean? He was a big, strong guy, with a wig walking around acting that way. It was just like so obvious, you know what I mean? It's like what's wrong with this picture? So it's so funny. Okay, fine. It's a joke. I can't imagine anybody else thinking it was a good idea, like that they had made, and we see the interviews of the poor young people who have transitioned and the horrors that they go through and the horrors that they're going to have to live through for the rest of their lives. And, the thing is that you've got a whole aspect of society that actually profits and makes money off of this. So of course they encourage it. Of course they promote it. Largely the liberal side of our society profits from mental instability and emotional imbalance. And by appealing to their horrible sense of entitlement and resentment, okay? That's what Hitler did. Yeah, that's another thing, Understand, the Nazis and the fascists, they were socialists. They weren't right-wing conservatives. They were left-wing ideologues. They believed that the state should take over religion. They believed that the state should take over the means of production, and not in a communistic sense to then supposedly falsely share the resources from the production facilities. No, but to strengthen the state. They believed that the religion should be the worship of the state. They believed that the individual had no rights and it was subservient to the rights of the state. That's left-wing ideology. So when they're going around and calling people fascists and Hitler, they're the ones who are the fascists. They're the ones who are consumed with a socialist, communist, state-sponsored ideology that does not respect the individual. And it is the individual which are the rights that matter. Nobody. The state is not allowed to trample your rights. They're not allowed to put you in jail because a woman falsely accused you. They're not allowed to kill you because they disagree with what you have to say. And now you see this political violence playing out at the end of their political cycle and their desperation to hold on. And the people, the useful idiots that they have gathered the zealots and the fanatics unto their cause. And they've gathered them through weakness, through appealing to their weakness, to appealing to their sense of entitlement. You can have anything you want. You can be any sex you want. We'll give you all the free stuff. You're entitled to it. Everybody who's in power, everybody who has a good life, they cheated you out of it. That's what they tell them. And that's how they attract them. That's how they get a hold of them. Do you see the picture of this Tyler Robinson? You know, he's a young man, right? But no, you can see something. You can see something terrible in like the oil of his skin and like the hatred, the contempt, just like behind his face, behind the muscles in his face. And it wasn't there earlier. You know what I mean? Like you see the pictures of a young, you know, when he was a little younger, it's like, well, okay, there's a normal enough looking young man. And then you see the pictures, you know, of, well, I guess his mug shots. So, right. But no. And it's like, no. That's something different going on there. That's something sick. That's something unbalanced. That's something unhealthy. See, I'm not even saying this in a way of condemning anything, even though, of course, it's worthy of condemnation. I'm saying it is that no, there's sickness. All right. What are your guys? Do you guys? I see this as a battle cry for America. I see this as a turning point for America. I see this as a call to arms. And I don't mean like violence, you know, but just stepping up now and taking it to a new level, because they're just shooting us in the streets. So, you know, we've got to take a stand here, please. All right. I'd be very curious to hear your guys' thoughts on it. You know, I can only go on for so long. I've been going on for a couple hours here. Help me out over on Cash App. Anything you can do will help me, you know, make more content. Help me stay alive for another day. Oh, yeah. You want to know how to get a horse to do anything you want it to do? Feed it just enough to get by to the next day. You want to know how to get a man to do whatever you want him to do? Feed him just enough to get by to the next day, the next week, the next month. They're not going to let you, as a man, have a job. We're already kicked out of the offices. I mean, you can still get a job, but you're a token there. You're tolerated there. You're not welcome there. Your work ability, your skill ability is not the coin of the realm. Your feelings and how well you involve other people. Come on, everybody. Come on, guys. Woo! That emotion, that's what makes you valuable to them. Nothing to do with reality, nothing to do with results, nothing to do with leadership. Fitting in, being part of the group, not causing any trouble, doing what you're told. The government will give you a free living wage eventually, as long as you do as you're told, as long as you don't cause any trouble, as long as we're all equal, as long as everybody's feelings count. As long as you don't try to stand up and be a man. I mean, here's the deal. You can live inside of the castle walls. You can have your corporate job. All you have to do is bow down to the king. And it turns out that this particular king is a gay transsexual woman, man from another country with a different religion who hates you. And all you got to do is chop off your dick and give it to him. All you got to do is let them sleep with your woman whenever they want to. All you got to let them do is have access to your kids whenever they want it. All you got to do is give up all those things, and you can stay inside of the castle walls with your nice little job. And then you'll have money, a little bit, to get by to the next day, to the next week, to the next month. And as long as you don't speak out like Howard Dare or like Charlie Kirk, they might let you stay. You better keep quiet, though. And if you try to walk away and have any sort of dignity or pride in yourself, and you don't approve of subjugating yourself for survival to other people, they'll recognize it on your face, on your expression, in your posture, the way you carry yourself. I can. And they will destroy you and condemn you, and they will get you in jail, and they will falsely accuse you. So the only thing I can think of is for you to study philosophy, people like Nietzsche, people like Ayn Rand, people like people like John Smith, people like Adam Smith, the foundation of America, of capitalism, of the founding fathers, of Benjamin Franklin, of the people who valued and fought and brought freedom to this world. Okay? Look to them. Look to their sacrifice. Look to what they had to say. Look to their ideas. Look what they did. And take inspiration there. But do not try to take it from Gavin Newsom, even though he is your leader. Not your leader. He is their leader. He will be their presidential nominee. And the gayer he makes his voice, the more votes he'll get. It's funny when they act like tough people too, when they act like tough guys, right? So like the Democrats are like, we're not going to take this shit. We're going to turn around and punch them in the face. I was like, no. You need men to do that. And the fact that you're talking like that already tells me that you're not a man, that's not there. So this is what's coming. No jobs for the men. Oh, you think you'll get a job in the trades? No, you won't. Those jobs are reserved for other men. I'm not kidding. Okay? Just look on a construction site. See who's there. Not men like you. They're not there. They're not allowed there. Don't you see? You're not allowed. Men like us are not allowed anywhere. We're not welcome anymore. Even though we built this whole thing. And our values built this whole thing. And our fathers built this whole thing. And the ideas and the principles that they passed on to us, those are the things that sustain all of this. But you're not welcome in it. You're basically Moses, okay? You get to lead the people to the promised land, but you don't get to come in. No, I mean, actually, I shouldn't use that one, right? Because there's great nobility in that one. I'd take that deal any day of the week. That's fine. You let me lead the people out of suffering, but I don't get to leave the suffering? Okay, fine. I'll do it. But you want me to lead the leftist, fascist, feminized, homosexual, transsexual man who hates men and who hates freedom and who hates the truth? I'm not going to lead him. I don't have to lead him. I'm staying away from him. And you know where he's going? He's going down a dead-end alley. He's going to a very dark place. And all I can hope for is that he doesn't drag me and everybody else with him. That's all. That's the truth of it. That's the real reality of the situation. The question becomes, can you save your own life? Can you still create a life worth living for yourself? I say you can, but it's an individual thing. Could you find a woman who respects and admires that? Maybe. To a degree. Somewhat. Is that the only way to be a man? I'm afraid so. Okay? You cannot castrate yourself emotionally, psychologically. to get along with the group and still be, powerful unto yourself. You have to be true to yourself. You can't force other people to go your way, but you can go your own way. Does this mean that you have to be alone and isolated forever like me? No, I don't think so. I think that you can find a small group of friends, men who are capable, who have skills, who are honorable, who aren't just interested in eating and getting fat and getting laid, who recognize that even though you don't have to do something, you should still do it because it's good for you. You can find a group of men like that, and you can support each other, and you can build a great future. You could build companies. You could build enterprises. You could get things done. You can have agency in this world. You could earn money, hopefully, right, through that. And if you wanted to find a woman and she respected you and respected, your ideas, then, that's your judgment call. These things are not lost to you because you are MGTOW, all right? As a matter of fact, I would say that the MGTOW are the only respectable men. I don't know, maybe there are other men out there, who are not bending over backwards to win the woman's approval. You know what I mean? Who are still true to themselves. Okay, that's perfectly respectable. But anything short of that, anything less than that, no. No, it is a betrayal of the self. It's like laughing at the boss's jokes when the boss's jokes are not funny. It's like, okay, good idea. Maybe you'll get a raise. Okay, good idea. Maybe you won't get fired. Okay, good idea. Maybe they won't single you out. And now 5, 10, 20 years have passed. And the man has been laughing at jokes that aren't funny. Just so that he could keep his job. Just so that he doesn't get hurt. And what does that do to him? What does he say to himself when he looks at himself in the mirror? He says, I betrayed myself. I gave up on my own sense of humor. And I replaced it with this garbage sense of humor, stuff that's just not funny. You have to be reasonably intelligent to get a joke, right? So if you've got people who are really very funny, and I don't mean low level making fun of people and belittling people. No, I mean, an intelligent joke. That person's probably pretty smart. So good stuff, right? All right, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thanks for letting me come on here and talk to you guys and get a few of these things off my chest. I got a lot of these things bothering me. Understand, I'm talking about myself, right? I'm talking about the things that I feel, the things that I see, but I believe they're true for all of us. Now, you might not be there. You might not be at this stage right now. That's fine. And so you say, oh, Howard Dare doesn't know what he's talking about. He's full of shit. But go ahead. Wait 20 years. Wait until you get falsely accused and get thrown in jail and your life is destroyed. Wait until then. And then you'll be like, oh, shit. That's what Howard was talking about, right? This is like your father giving you advice when you're a kid. You're a teenager. And your father's sitting there and saying, you got to get up early. You got to work hard. It doesn't matter if it's raining. It doesn't matter if you're sick. It doesn't even matter if your boss isn't going to pay you. This is the right way to be. This is the right thing to do. And, the kid's listening to this and he's like, that's crazy. I feel sick. I'm tired. I've got bullies at school that are giving me a hard time. I haven't done my homework. There's a girl, there's a gang of girls that are beating me up, that are making fun of me and shit. None of the teachers respect me. My teachers have purple hair and shit like that. No, I don't want to get up. I don't want to deal with this. And the father is like, you got to do it. You got to do it. Right? And he throws your coffee in your face, You're like, what the fuck? But then 30, 40 years later, you're sitting there and all this shit is happening to you. And it's like par for the course. It's like, no, this is just what we do. This is how we are. This is how our society is. Get used to it, white man, white guy. Get used to it. And you're like, shit, I don't want to go out in this. This isn't right. And then your father's words come back to you. And you say, oh, shit. He wasn't talking about back then going to school. He was talking about 40 fucking years later when I'm a man and I need the strength. Luckily, my father did that with me. And when the time came, when the dark night of the soul came, I've been able to say, fuck this. You're full of shit. I'm stronger. I'm better. I work harder. I do a better job. You don't tell me shit. And I do it without reward. And I do it in the bad weather. And I do it if I'm sick. I do it if I'm hungry. I do it if I'm tired. I do it if nobody appreciates it. And if I only have 8 people watching my podcast, I still do it. I used to have 75,000 subscribers. Okay. No podcast, I'd get 50, 100 people easy. If I timed it up well and, I did all my fucking pre-work, I'd have a few hundred people. I'd have Cash App donations coming in all over the place, super chats coming in all over the place, requests for videos coming in all over the place. Okay? I don't have any of that now, but I'm still here. Figure it out. Understand what's going on. Understand how strong you need to be. Understand that the super wolves become the super wolves because they're hunting down the super deer. The super deer become the super deer because they had to contend with the super wolves. And that this is a cycle, and you're in a political cycle, and it's bigger than us. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's cultural. It's societal. It's worldwide. It's way above our heads. It's like we're sitting here and we're looking at like one little square inch of the Mona Lisa. And we're saying, what the fuck is this? It's like, it just looks like a bunch of colors. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, that's right. It doesn't make any sense because you can only see 1 inch of the picture. You got another, couple of feet worth of the image that you can't see. This is a war going on in the sky above you. And every once in a while, a bomb falls or a plane crashes. You're not in the control room. You're not in the general's room. You're not in the tent. You don't know the plans. You don't know who's fighting who. All you know is you're down here on the ground, and every once in a while, boom, there's an explosion. That's it. That's all you know. That's all you can know. And you're trying to make sense of it. And it doesn't make no sense. But you got to be strong. And eventually, guess what? More of the picture becomes open to you. You start to see the cave. You start to see the exit of the cave. So that's what I'm working towards, right? I'm working towards, my fellow MGTOW getting the big picture, getting out of the cave, not suffering through this emotional turmoil that I know they're going to get put through. Man, I know. You're a good man. You're going to do the right thing in the right way, the right time. And man, they're going to come after you for that very reason. So it is a battle cry, isn't it? It's a battle cry for anybody who can hear it. It's a battle cry for anybody smart enough to know what it's there, know what's going on, know what's going to happen. Yeah, you can stay inside of the castle walls. You'll be safe. You can have a job. All you got to do is give it up. That's all. And it'll make a lot of sense to give it up. And the woman will tell you to give it up. She gave it up. She gives it up automatically. The child has no choice but to give it up. They have no choice but to adopt the values of the world around them and to assume that these are the correct values. Indeed, they are the correct values for them to get along. But they are not the correct values for them to become strong and independent and a human being. Please understand this. The world, the institutions, religion, well, let's not go in there. The schools, the media, the entertainment, the movies, the culture, the marketing, the commercials, okay? They don't care if you are a strong and healthy human being. That's not what they're trying to do for you. They're trying to make you to submit and to follow their orders and to do as you are told. You are regimented, you have bells, you have schedules, you have time. You show up on time, you follow the orders, you do what they tell you to do. If you do not, you will be punished. And if you don't get it, you will be punished again. And if you don't get it, you will be punished so severely that it's over for you. Get it? That's what they're building. That's your school system. That's your educational system. That's why they look like prisons. Because they want you in that mindset. So they were never, ever trying to make you happy. They were never trying to make you fulfilled. They were never trying to help you live out to your potential. And your friends and your coworkers and the women and your family around you, they don't want to see you do well. They don't want to see you be happy. Wake up. Because when you try to do those things, they condemn you. They make fun of you. They belittle you. You say, oh, I'm going to start my own business. I really believe in this. I'm not going to be crazy and just mortgage my future, but I'm going to take my spare time and I'm going to do this. And your friends will look at you and your family will look at you and will say, well, who the hell do you think you are? Do you think you're Elon Musk? You say, I'm going to start taking care of my diet. I'm not going to eat this garbage. They'll say to you, what? Macaroni and cheese not good enough for you? You don't want to be mobbed up with the rest of us, huh? Around here, you either run with the pack or you the pack bitch. That's what they'll say to you. And all you're trying to do is to become a brain surgeon. All you're trying to do is to make a difference in the world. All you're trying to do is earn your way in the world. An honest day's work for an honest day's wage. It's like, who do you think you are? You got to be a servant of the government. You got to do as the women tell you, or you're not a real man. So that's what you're facing. That's what the young men are facing. That's what I have lived through. Yeah, maybe watch a good movie. Yeah, check out the movie Sinners, right? It's about, early Black America. It is. But no, it's a fine movie. And I love the message at the end, Yeah, that was the best day of my life. We were free. We were working. We were working towards our goals. There were women. There were people. There were good times. It was the best day of my life. All right, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Please donate. I really need a little help over on Cash App. Even a few dollars would help me, okay? I'm just looking to buy some bologna and a loaf of bread, bro. So if you can, click on my Cash App donation link and help me out. But don't be limited to the idea that you only got to give me a few dollars or $5. If you can, go ahead. Give me $20. Give me $50. Give me $100. I'll put it to good use. I'll do with it what I'm doing here now. I want to kind of, in my way, carry on Charlie's work. Okay, I'm not going out there and walking out onto a campus or a group. I'm even getting afraid to stand in front of a group of 20 people. And it's not that I'm afraid. You know what I mean? Like, I can speak. I can stand up in front of a group of 1,000 people and talk. No, I'm getting afraid, on a basic level. So help me out, please, so I can survive, so that I can make more content, so that I can live to the next day, right? And join me again, Howard Dare. I'll try to do this more often. We'll build this up. We'll get this going. We'll have a little something going on. We will be free. We will have our hustle going on. There will be good times and good people. And it will be the best days of our life. Thank you, MGTOW.